What is going on, and welcome to part 2 of my State of Madden series. In this video, I'm going to look at esports, and I'm going to look at what can be done from a competitive standpoint in order to grow as an esport, and what changes we can make and implement going into the future that will make Madden a much more competitive and much more sustained esport. Let's start with one of the simplest aspects that needs to be addressed moving forward. And I feel like this is something that has been talked about a lot, but it's been sort of discussed and kind of yelled at. It's the leaderboard system. I feel that the public leaderboard is fine. However, there needs to be a better method for ranking. The public leaderboard online on the game is sort of worthless. There's no policing it. There's no way to tell whose accounts are what unless you track IPs. And while the competitive team is trying to do a good job at that, there are still far too many ways to try to circumvent that. Now, one of the easiest ways to prevent that is to actually make it an opt-in leaderboard off of another website, whether that's the MUT Rewards website or we can use Gamer Saloon. I would say game battles would be another option. However, I don't know how much MLG would appreciate Madden trying to get back on board beyond whatever ladder they have on game battles for the game itself. However, an opt-in leaderboard would then allow everybody that wants to compete a chance to compete. And we already have the MUT Rewards email set up for our accounts, and those accounts are able to track how many packs we open. So I'm sure that that can track what games we play online. And what we can do is have a very separate leaderboard that's constantly being updated, which will then force regulations for players who are under 18 that can't compete if they happen to qualify. It's going to be able to track how many games are played per hour and that sort of thing. And we're going to be able to see players who, let's say this year, were able to get free wins via pause glitching or whatever it is. You can be able to track those with better metrics and better address those if the players had to opt into the leaderboard as opposed to it being built into the game system. Another aspect that needs to be addressed, and it's already been talked about, so I'm sure it's going to come, however, it still needs to be brought up. We need better competitive settings. There's a reason why every tournament known to mankind since Madden has started has been played on all Madden. It's because it gives the least possibility for the computer to make something happen for the player. And in order for an esport to actually be an esport, the computer cannot do things for the user. I understand that it would make rating seem sort of obsolete, and I'm not saying that. I'm not sitting here saying that a computer player should never force a fumble on another player. However, there needs to be a higher penalty for a user-controlled player taking on a computer-controlled player. If that was the case, it would then put the emphasis on the user, and it would end up rewarding good user play and good stick skill as opposed to rewarding having a better rated player. In addition to that, what needs to be addressed is how the rankings are done. I feel like this is the one thing that I really truly needed to mention, and what the main emphasis that I had when I first came up with the idea for this series was about. I feel that the public leaderboard and the leaderboard in general is complete garbage. I have had no problem voicing my opinions of that. Okay, this reflection is terrible. I'm sorry. I have had no problems voicing my opinions for the public leaderboard and the way it's done all year long, and I will continue to say it is a terrible system. There is a better alternative. Instead of making it a perpetual leaderboard where everybody plays games constantly and just ranks up based on volume, not quality, no matter how much you want to say quality matters, at the end of the day, if somebody plays 1,000 games, chances are they're going to be much higher rated than someone who plays 100. What's going to happen, what needs to be done, is there needs to be a better way to come up with your top 64 per console. So what I propose, and it's been done from other games. I know Halo did it for a little bit during the Master Chief Collection, during their open qualifiers. That was a couple years ago. Gears of War did something similar. Call of Duty does it weekly. It's a weekly series. Now, what Madden can do is it can do a weekly online tournament where, again, you have to opt in. So you have to go to the website and sign up and check that you want to participate in this tournament. Now, it could start Thursday night and you could play a couple round games. Then you could do Friday a couple rounds. And then the weekend could be pool play even, because that actually happens with certain titles. However, the end result is the same. The means and the actual minutia of the tournament can differ. However, the concept remains the same. What needs to happen is you need to opt into the weekly Pro Points tournament. And then you need to play the tournament. And at the end of the tournament, let's say the top 64 get points. 64 for first, 1 for 64th. And then, based on those points, another leaderboard, like the overall leaderboard, not the tournament leaderboard, not the weekly one, but the overall leaderboard will then rank 1 through 64, the top Xbox One and the top PS4 players. And then at the end of the season, those top 64, based on pro points, will then be invited to the major event. And then once that major event happens, you can then rank the players however you want, like with a Madden points series or whatever. Not necessarily a pro points, but a secondary point system. And then you can invite the top 32 from that overall to the championship at the end of the year. This system would then put an emphasis on players being able to practice and lab games instead of an emphasis on quantity of wins and quantity of games played. This system would then allow you to bypass the public leaderboard, which would then force players to play on their own gamer tags, and then nobody can play on their friend's tag unless they were literally sitting right next to each other the whole tournament. And since most players don't live next to each other or in their same house, it would be almost impossible. And then, of course, you can track IPs, and you would know if they were doing that. And since you're tracking IPs and everything like that, it would be much easier to police illegal activity within the confines of your championship series rules. This would also put an emphasis on wins instead of just games played. I feel that there are plenty of quality players that don't have the time commitment currently, given jobs, families, lack of financial opportunities within Madden, to sit down on their couch the whole day and play Madden 24/7. With that comes a very, very small group of individuals that actually has the potential to make these tournaments. I know personally I cannot sit and play 1,000 games in a season in order to try to crack the top 64. I've tried it. I've been ranked pretty high on those leaderboards, but this season I could not qualify because too many people were playing far too many games to try to make up ground when I have a full-time job. Now, I'm not sitting here crying about it, but I'm sitting here saying that there's a better alternative that will allow better quality players into those events. And better quality players in the events with better marketing and better advertising will lead to better community growth. And better community growth will lead to higher revenues. Higher revenues means more money. Period. Think of it like the Sprint Cup, like NASCAR. I mean, I'm not great with NASCAR, so I'm sure somebody has a better understanding of that system than I do. However, there is a point system based on how they finish in the races, and then at the end of the season, they end up in basically a playoff where they play through different races, and then the last place kind of gets eliminated, but they can still race in the race, and like it's kind of messy. However, you get the idea. The idea is that you get rid of the public leaderboard and institute weekly Pro Point Series games. And those games can then be used to rank the top 64 per console, and that top 64 will be used at the end of each season, and then it resets. This would also allow for those challenger events to be more marquee events. This year, the challenger events have been literally in New Jersey. Yeah, I don't have the time off to take off. Most people don't, to travel to New Jersey. Now, there's one coming up in Vegas, and if you're watching this video later, there was one in Vegas. The last tournament of the year was in Vegas for pro points. Now, New Jersey and Vegas. I don't know about you, but the rest of the country cannot travel to all those places on a whim. Now, granted, yes, they've been announced far enough in advance, you might be able to get a cheap ticket on Allegiant or Frontier Airlines. However, the vast majority of Americans that play this game do not have that capacity. Most 18-year-olds in college do not have that capacity. Which brings me to my next point. They decided to do the Madden College Tournament Series, which is only good for players in college, which is cool. I understand that college players cannot travel the same way that players out of college can. Trust me, as a former college student, I know just how poor you can be. However, to sit here and say that a college tournament for a very specific niche of individuals warrants the same amount of prestige and the same amount of possibilities as random New Jersey tournament. Well, actually, not even. The college series, if you win it, you actually end up going directly to the championship. So that means that one player is going to get essentially a free ride to the finals as opposed to having to grind the entire year. Now, I'm not going to complain because if I was in college, it'd be great. However, that puts everybody else at a disadvantage, and that's one less spot for them to compete for. The Club Series is a completely different animal, and I like the concept. I do like the concept of the Club Series. However, the Club Series, it lacked a certain level of competitiveness because, again, it put an emphasis on quantity of wins over quality of wins. Because, again, it used the same leaderboard that has been the issue all year. I'm not against the idea of opting into a club. Again, I'm taking that concept in the weekly tournaments. You have to opt in. However, the public leaderboard being used for anything beyond random kids online is flawed. No other game uses a public leaderboard to rank players. If Call of Duty or Halo or League of Legends used the public leaderboard to rank its players and its pro players, you would not have pro teams. You would not have pro players because it would literally be whoever's sitting at their computer 24/7. And that isn't what it's about. It's about quality of games. It's about quality of content. It's about competitiveness of that content. And there are far too many ways that other game titles have done it in the past that Madden has failed to do so far. I know that got kind of rambly, so I'd like to bring it all back, scrap the public leaderboard, and give us weekly pro point tournaments. Those pro points will be then used on a leaderboard. That leaderboard, every month or every season, will be the basis for PS4 and Xbox, Top 64, playing the major. Then you could get your Madden Championship Series points off that major, so there'd be 2-point systems. Kind of like MUT, how it has the coins and the points. But then you can rank the players on like a Pro Series points, or like a Championship Series points, I should say, not Pro points. Pro points can be used for the weeklies, and then Championship Series points can be used to rank players overall, regardless of console. And then at the end of the season, you can have a championship tournament with those players based on those rankings. And those rankings can change less frequently than the weekly ones. That is the essentials of what I would like to see changed with esports. And I feel like with that would come better marketing. Now that's going to be the next video where I discuss what changes can be made that will allow for much larger growth with the community as well as larger earning potential with content viewership. So please share this video. I feel like this is the nuts and bolts. This is the meat and potatoes. This is literally my Magna Carta of competitive Madden. So I would like this one, if nothing else, this one is the one I would like shared. This is the one I would like the discussions on. This is the one that I would like to see everybody getting on board with, because I feel like this is the only true way we can see competitive Madden compete with other competitive esports titles, because we have so much potential but we just need to tap into what others have done and do it better. So please share this video, please like this video, please subscribe, because I got other content on these topics coming, but this one right here, this is the one that matters. Until next time, guys, I'm out.